Outsiders issue 7, Collie Kelly and Jackson Lansing with Robert Carey on the art. So yeah, this is where we get an explanation of Drummer's backstory, and it kind of takes us on a trip through multiple DC reboots.
Yeah.
Effectively, starting with the New 52, because that's when the universe she came from, presumably, first got destroyed, was when that all merged together.
Yeah. So Planetary is a Wildstorm property, right? And so it seems like this ends, or this starts after Planetary ends.
Yes.
So as someone reading through Planetary, I feel like I've just been spoiled, but that's okay. Because there's some reveals of some mysteries here in the dialogue when we're with them.
I feel like, I mean, that ended a while ago at this point. It's fair game for the story to reference it, right?
When they're talking about the reveals of who the fourth man was and all this other stuff that's been a mystery as I'm reading, I just think it's very funny that this is very much a sequel to Planetary at this point, more than it's an actual Outsiders. But yeah, we get to follow Jaquita Wagner, who is seemingly not the sole survivor of Wildstorm, but the Planetary, as she experiences all the different reboots.
She's the survivor in the sense that she remembers like
everything.
Other Wildstorm characters are around, but the rebooted versions where she's, as they put in this book, she's immune to these
She's
changes.
immune to all of that. Yes. And I think that's funny because the whole gimmick at the beginning is that she's immune to the end, right? Her story keeps going while all these other ones stop and restart. And I think that's a very fun way, from the things that I've experienced reading Planetary at this point, that's a very Planetary way to look at comic books.
Yeah, because like the world starts to go to white, and she like is getting pulled out into like whatever's changing when they are all just fading away, and we see like the Flash running, and obviously once you realize this is the start of the New 52, you realize, oh, this is Flashpoint happening. This is when all that's going down. And she hasn't, she came from a world where there was no Metropolis in Gotham, because when the guy in the alleyway says, "Oh, you're in Metropolis," she's like, "Which one?" Like, there's lots of Metropolises. There's New York. There's and he's like, "No, there's Metropolis." Like, this is where we are.
Metropolis. Yeah.
I will say it's slight. Not that I like this outfit by any means, but I thought it was interesting that the V-neck on the Superman suit wasn't there in that 2-page spread, because that's like one of the most defining parts of that New 52 costume.
Yeah.
The rest of it's there, but just the V-neck's missing. I thought that was a bit strange.
It still has the big collar, though.
It does.
Yeah.
Sadly, the new movie seems to have a big collar as well.
Oh, I know. Why would you make that choice?
It's bizarre.
Movie's doomed.
Also, when Jaquita gets, pulled from her reality to this new one via Flashpoint, she loses her gun and grabs the drummer's drumstick.
Yeah, just one of them.
So this is just one of them. Yeah. So this is almost like her constant. To borrow a thing from Lost.
Maybe part of why she remembers this. That she grabs this tether, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a physical tether to her original universe.
Yeah. So she obviously like studies what's happened, what's going on, and talks about her feeling very like hard to like care about anything, because she basically knows that eventually there'll be another reset, and like whatever belief she builds won't matter, and that's kind of like part of the big themes of this and why it's difficult for her. And we see her like keeping records of things, and like it literally shows 52, Convergence, Rebirth, like
Convergence reference in Year of Our Lord 2024.
Yeah, but it happened, right?
Yeah.
That's where we're at with. I think that's how Convergence.
It's a weird week where we have references to Omega Titans and Convergence in the same week.
It's whale times.
Wasn't that how Convergence ended? Was it all happened? We just everything happened and we just kind of
everything's there. Just stop worrying about it, guys.
Yeah. But I think what's important on this is when she starts collecting all of these things, right? She talks about that there is no snowflake and there never was, meaning the whole concept of that's how they looked at the metaverse or the multiverse or whatever, right? And that's the thing that the Outsiders have also encountered through. So it just seems like this was written in a point where the multiverse was reforming and things have changed even since then.
Yeah, because then she sees the rebirth version of the Justice League, and but we see that she does build a life. She finds someone and is I don't know if she's married or just like living with someone, but regardless, she's in a relationship. But then, of course, it happens again, and this seems to be Dark Knights of Steel. No, not Dark Knights of Steel.
No,
Death Metal.
Death Metal.
Yeah.
because the giant mountain shows up in Gotham.
Right?
Yeah. No, I just mixed up the titles. Obviously, Darkness of Steel is the Tom Taylor Elseworld, but the mountain coming up. Or
you were just going with whatever sounded like a metal record.
It was the first metal. Whatever metal had the mountain come up in Gotham, right? Yes. Whatever one it was.
I think it was the first one, yeah. Because the second one opens with the definitely not the Power Ranger stuff.
Yes. That sounds right.
Yeah. I'm glad you guys remember.
Yeah.
Well, those books are not deep, but they were fun.
Yeah. No, that's true. But I forgot the whole Power Rangers aspect, the Voltroning. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. And then she
meets... mix your franchises, man.
And then she meets this other character who is not just appeared here. He points out that he's the final knight from this other Earth, and he had to like fight his way to be here. But she just keeps existing no matter what. And sure enough, once again, there's a new version of the Justice League. Well, it's not even the Justice League. It's just like it's like 3 Flash members, 3 Green Lanterns, 3 Superman characters.
Yeah, there's Flash, and then so there's all these legacy characters, and then Wonder Woman and her invisible jet, which is just a hilarious visual.
Yeah, honestly, it looks more she's on a motorbike. If I'm being honest.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I think that's just her sitting at the controls.
I know, but it looks like she's got on like a Harley or
it's the legs forward as well.
Tucked underneath.
It's like she's reaching for pedals in a car or like forward on a bike. Whereas if you're sat on a chair in a plane, I assume it's more like a normal chair because you don't have pedals. So you put your legs down flat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. At least assuming you have reasonable posture anyway. Maybe she just has terrible posture.
No, I'm thinking one of those motorbikes where, your legs are more at the front, like one of those big...
Yeah, like a big Harley.
Yeah. So, no, but basically she's been through all these changes, and it kind of like encouraged her to sort of become the new drummer, and, it's like, all these things are gone, but they're not gone because I'm an archaeologist, right? And she's trying to find her way back to her people, and that's when we finally come back to she's telling all this to Batwoman, to Luke, and... Batwoman immediately is like, okay, you're delusional, you belong in Arkham, I'm going to go and be a superhero now, and I'm done with this nonsense. So, yeah, it leaves us in a weird place. But she talks about how, we are fiction, there is a world that is reading us. So
she talks directly to us.
Yeah, it gets very, very directly meta, right? In a way that's very Grant Morrison, because it's, you're reading a comic book, you're reading a book called The Outsiders, and like this was chapter 8 Hex, like it really gets to it. So I had to catch up on this book, and I'd enjoy. I think I'd read the first like 4, maybe 5, and I'd enjoyed them all already. I'm like, hey, no, this was I was already into the book. I'm like, this is pretty good. Never having read Planetary and not having that connection, I still thought, hey, this is solid. And then I got to issue 6, but I was catching up. It must have been 6, 5 or 6, or was it the final issue thing?
Yeah, that was 6 because 5 was the right. 5 was the. Hold on, 5 was the new Sentry girl, right?
Yes. So I read. I read 5. I read 5 and 6 before this one in the last week or so. And 5, I was like, oh, that was really good. That was kind of really great. This book's low-key kind of grabbing me.
5, the Century Child issue was probably my favorite issue of the book so far.
Yeah.
Well, I was like, oh my god, this is really great. And then I went straight into 6 afterwards, and it was the realm of all the people who didn't survive their reboots.
Yes.
The cast-offs. I was like, oh, this is straight up some Grant Morrison shit.
I remember thinking the last one wasn't as good. Like I was a little bit less enthusiastic about the last one, but
was the last one.
Was that the last one? Okay, it was
7.
The one you really didn't like.
With teasing Hex,
that's next issue. Okay,
next issue. Yeah.
Okay,
the one you didn't really enjoy, Pete, was the Vampire Club.
Yes, that was the one I didn't like very much.
That was, I think, 4.
That was the issue where I wasn't. That was the last one I read before this, and I was like, it was okay. Yeah. I think I might have been on the show for that issue, and I remember saying at the time, being like, this one wasn't so hot. But
you would really enjoy Planetary then, Connor. If you could track
I'm aware.
that down.
I'm very aware. It's on my massive.
It is right up your alley. I'm to the point where they're getting into the origin of their main antagonist, the 4. And they're essentially just an evil version of the Fantastic Four, and it's just it's really something nice.
Yeah, I mean, the end of this issue is basically Drummer, or if we're calling her by what was her name? Jaquita. She basically is threatening the reader. She's threatening us and saying, "I'm coming for you, sons of bitches. Like, you think you can oversee my world? No.
Yeah.
I've got secrets."
You think you know the ending, but you don't know, bleep. I like that. It's vaguely threatening.
Yeah.
And yes, Miss Wagner, I don't know anything. It's fine. Don't hit me.
This, low key might be becoming my favorite ongoing book.
Hey, I don't think I'm at that point. I think I care more about at least a handful of other books more, but it's good.
The last 3 issues of this now are these are some of the best things that I read. They're coming out in any given month from DC specifically.
I mean, and it was still solicited for August, so it's not ending too soon. You're getting at least some more of it.
So on this cover, right, when this was solicited, it was Drummer holding, a redacted body, we couldn't see whose it was, and I had thought oh, don't be Kate, because I'm not going to be dealing with that. So the fact that it's Elijah Snow, who's the other character from Planetary, that's very I do like what this represents, right? Because it's Chiquita coming to terms with that her world's missing, and yes, she's looking for it. Right, but this is the death of all that she knew. So it's very much in that same type of crisis way of Superman holding Supergirl, right? So
no, it's definitely interesting. It's one of those things where the first couple of pages of this book, it was a little bit much to take in, not knowing who any of these characters were, and be like, oh god, is this going to be a whole issue of me following these characters I don't know? But then, obviously, quite quickly, it did the Flash. It was like, okay, no, we're getting Drummer's origin effectively, and how she ended up here, and the fact that she's lived through all these reboots that we've went over in the last decade and a half. And
looking back to knowing that she's Jaquita Wagner that got revealed in the last issue, when you go back and look at that Vampire Club issue where she's just starting to kill people, it makes sense because that was she's the field agent in Planetary, right? So there's little hints. So I'm curious to go back now that I have the familiarity and reread this from the beginning and see if there's any more hints that they were dropping breadcrumbs.
Oh, that's
makes sense.
Yeah.
Honestly, I did not think that Kelly and Lansing had this in them.
Yeah,
I always consider them to be competent, good writers, but you're a safe pair of hands. I did not see them getting experimental like this.
No, and I think it shows how much they love the art form, right? Because that's what we always say about Morrison. When Morrison gets wonky with stuff, we're like, oh yeah, it's because they love it. I feel the same here. As not only do they love Planetary, but just the whole concept of the DC universe and reboots and and what that all means for these characters.
Something quite nice about this is it is a story that only works in the context of the DC universe. There's a lot of DC comics that you can change the character names, you can fudge it a little bit, and by and large it'll function as an Image comic or even mostly as a Marvel comic, right? You can take the same beats and just transfer them. This here, with the way it's got the reboots all structured into it, I don't think there's any other company that has the universe and the history that lets this story work this way. At least not with any. You can tell this with the idea of reboots, but with a character having the weight of it, of them having been rebooted, and readers being familiar with that world already, independently of it. I think that it only works here.
Oh yeah, I mean, we instantly just reading this. If you've been reading DC for any length of time, I got what was happening in this book as soon as I saw that Justice League and their New 52 outfits. I'm okay, I just instantly get this now. I instantly get what just happened. So from there on,
when I saw the first Flash, I was like, oh, are we taking this all the way back to Crisis on Infinite Earths? But then when you see that it's the New 52, you're like, oh yeah. That
makes sense because that's when Whalestorm get folded in. That's when their universe get killed effectively. So, no, I mean
it's clever. It's really clever.
So no, super interesting book. So, what are we rating this, Matt?
I'm gonna give this an 8.
Connor?
Oh, this is the one where I'm going high because it's really working for me. I'm gonna give this one a 9.
Okay, I'm going to go with the 8 on this. It's really good. It's really interesting. So.